Agent Halson from SHIELD is going to be the main character, and this time the antagonist not only has the abilities of Groot, but also possesses the combined powers of all the superheroes and the Avengers. The Third World War is about to break out. This time, there's no help from the Avengers. Can Nick Fury save his homeland? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Marvel's latest spin-off series, Secret Invasion. Humanity has entered the information age. The media and websites are contradicting each other, making it impossible to know who to believe. People can only seek help from those close to them. What if the most trusted person is just a substitute impersonated by an alien? At this time, the Avengers have already disbanded, but organizations like SHIELD still have to do their job. Agent Ross is exchanging information with Agent York. Last year, there were 5 global terrorist attacks. The chain reaction of violence has spread globally. York believes it's the work of the Skrulls. These aliens can mimic and replicate anyone at will. They can transform into anyone, anytime, anywhere. They might have already infiltrated every corner of the Earth. They are planning to silently replace humanity. Ross asks him to speak with evidence. York hands him a device. It contains the Skrulls' next plan. Ross wants to take the device with him. He says he wants to show it to director Nick Fury. York senses something is wrong. He lunges at Ross and chokes him, but in an instant he is shot by Ross. Ross leaves with the device. A man quietly follows him. He quickens his pace to shake off the pursuer, but the man persists and keeps chasing. Ross leaps down to the lower floor. Agent Hill quickly raises her gun, threatening the man to raise his hands, but the next second the man reveals his true form. It turns out to be Talos, the leader of the Skrulls. Then Ross also reverts to his true form. He is also a Skrull imposter. It seems York's speculation was correct. The Skrulls' infiltration plan has already begun. However, Talos wasn't involved. After Nick learns about this, he returns to Earth from the Sword space station. He is mentally exhausted. Clearly, the snap event took a toll on him. Talos and Hill explain the details of the incident to him. In the 1990s, the first wave of Skrulls arrived on Earth. Captain Marvel and Nick Fury promised to help them find a new home. However, this promise was not fulfilled, causing some Skrulls to consider Earth. They have elected a new leader named Skrull. They have ousted Talos from the council. Skrull and the others are hiding in an abandoned nuclear power plant. Skrulls are not afraid of nuclear radiation. Their next plan is to detonate a dirty bomb to reignite a war between the US and Russia. The news of Nick's return to Earth quickly reaches the White House. The president sends his men to investigate the reason. Meanwhile, MI6 directly captures Nick. The person in charge here is called Sonya. She is also aware of the Skrulls' infiltration plan, and she warns Nick to quickly return to the Sword space station, not to get involved in this war. While Sonya is pouring drinks, Nick discreetly places a miniature camera on an owl sculpture. Through this, he gathers important information. One is the identity of the Skrull bomb supplier, and Sonya's preliminary plan. She wants to track down the Skrull safe house location and eliminate them all. Nick disagrees with this approach. There are good Skrulls among them. Nick must find the supplier and intercept the bombs first. He also needs to protect the secrecy of the safe house. On the other side, 312 kilometers southwest of Moscow, Gia, a faction led by the new leader Skrull, returns to their base with the stranded members of their tribe. They capture the leader of the anti-Russia and anti-US group nearby, and they replicate his appearance as a disguise. He wants to disguise himself as an American and carry out terrorist attacks in Russia to provoke a conflict between the two countries. In order to deceive everyone perfectly, Skrulls also use a special device to replicate their recent memories and mindset. That imitation is highly accurate. The next day, Nick and the others begin their operation. However, Gia manages to complete the bond transaction ahead of time. Talos captures the supplier later on to extract more information from him, but the supplier remains silent. Talos intends to use force to resolve the situation. He discovers that the supplier is also a Skrull. They engage in a fight. The supplier accuses Talos of betraying their own kind. Nick sees that the situation is at a stalemate. He shoots and kills the supplier. Meanwhile, Hill catches up with Gia. However, she is no match for her. Gia disarms Hill and knocks her down. Fortunately, Talos arrives in time. He intercepts Gia, who was about to escape. He manages to stop her, not because he is more powerful, but because Gia is Talos' own daughter. However, their relationship is clearly strained. Talos tells her, Your mother is already dead, and her death is related to graviton. Ji-ai returns to the base with the bomb. Her father's words make her start to doubt the new leader. After hesitating, Ji-ai finds Talos. She reveals tomorrow's plan in detail. Graviton's people will plant bombs in the square. Nearly 100 spies are deployed at the scene. However, she sprayed infrared mist on the bomb backpacks. Talos and the others contract the bomb's location using it. He chooses to believe his daughter's words. The next day, he acts with Nick and Hill. The three of them wear special glasses and arrive at the square. They split up to track the backpacks with infrared markings. At this moment, Nick sees a little girl holding a ball. He becomes suspicious and follows her. After the girl breaks through the crowd, she transforms into a middle-aged man. Immediately after, she transforms into an elegant, mature woman. Finally, she reveals herself as Graviton. He smiles and raises the remote control in his hand. He detonates the bombs in the square. Nick and the others fell into the trap. Those marked backpacks are all empty. The entire square is in chaos. Graviton disappears into the crowd. He can't transform into anyone's appearance. At this moment, Gil nervously looks around. Finally, she spots Nick with difficulty. The next moment, she is hit by a bullet. The Nick in front of her is also fake. By the time the real Nick arrives, Gil is already dead. This is the terrifying aspect of the Skrulls. They will destroy your trust. In fact, Nick had already dealt with Graviton back in 1997. At that time, the other party was just a child. His parents were killed while fighting against the Kree. Young Graviton escaped enemy control alone in a small ship. It was at that time that Nick and Captain Marvel, in order to plead with the Skrulls to help the Earth, make a commitment to help them find homes. Graviton kept everything in mind and resented Nick for not fulfilling the promise. The story returns to the present. Talos changed his disguise. He grabbed Nick and took him out of the square. The two of them boarded a train bound for Warsaw. Along the way, Nick asked Talos about the destruction of Skrull homeworld. If there was any hidden information, Talos confessed. Because their homeworld was destroyed, his fellow Skrulls had nowhere to go. He hid nearly 1 million Skrulls on Earth. Nick became unsettled. He asked if Talos had lost his mind. How could such a significant matter not be discussed? Talos became furious. You went to hide on the space station. Where was I supposed to find someone to discuss it with? The two of them had an unpleasant argument. Hugh's mother received her daughter's body. She instructed Nick not to let her daughter's sacrifice be in vain. On the other side, Talos' plan went smoothly. The police arrested the individual who was resisting the US-Russia conflict in the square, and they publicly revealed his identity in the news. The British Prime Minister, NATO's Secretary General, and various figures from different sectors got involved. This discovery intensified the US-Russia conflict. Meanwhile, Graviton and Ji-ai arrived outside an office. Ji-ai was blocked from entering. The security level at this place was extremely high. The people who spoke in the news gathered together. Their true identities were all Skrulls. Graviton disapproved of the behavior of his fellow Skrulls. Because they had been pretending to be humans for too long, they had become hypocritical and deceitful. Graviton expressed his idea of conquering Earth. He hoped to gain everyone's support. The Skrulls' press had been influential in politics for many years. It was inevitable that some people would be dissatisfied. However, the majority, led by the British Prime Minister, were willing to assist Graviton in his grand plan. A woman named Shirley was unwilling to start a war. She had always supported Talos' approach. After Ji-ai followed Skrull back to the base, Ji-ai noticed that he approached his subordinates and whispered something. She cautiously followed. She saw the subordinate entering a laboratory and having a conversation with a female scientist. They mentioned the topic of gene searching during the conversation. It seemed like they were conducting some secret experiment. Ji-ai searched for information about the female scientist, Dalton. She discovered that Dalton had collected DNA from various species. Among them were familiar beings, like Groot and the Frost Giant. On the side, because Nick and Hill appeared in the exploding square, representatives from various countries demanded an explanation from Colonel Rhodes. He stated that both individuals were acting privately and had no connection to the US government. After the meeting, Rhodes received a call from Nick. They agreed to meet at the Berna Tavern at 1 o'clock. Rhodes got angry when he saw Nick. He asked Nick what the hell he was doing in Russia. Nick asked rhetorically, "How well do you know your personal bodyguards? They are armed and guarding you nearly 24 hours a day. What if these people are aliens in disguise?" Rhodes' expression changed slightly after hearing this. It turns out that Nick knew about it 15 years ago. There was a group of shape-shifting aliens who had infiltrated Earth. He didn't expect them to infiltrate so quickly. Rhodes asked Nick about their plan. Nick didn't say much. He hoped that Rhodes could provide support behind the scenes. However, this request was unrealistic. Nick's unauthorized actions had already caused dissatisfaction among the higher-ups. Rhodes dismissed him from his position. Meanwhile, Sonia arrived at a food processing plant. In the cold storage, a group of agents were interrogating someone using harsh methods. The person being interrogated was the captured US-Russia resistance fighter. No matter what torture methods the others used, they couldn't make him talk. Sonia pushed the agents aside. Then she snapped one of his fingers with pliers. Once they confirmed that he was an alien, the party was about to begin. Sonia injected him with a special drug which caused the blood in his body immediately heated up to 160 degrees. His blood vessels turned a vibrant red. Even the Skrulls can endure such torture. However, Grave is cautious. This subordinate has limited information. Sonia only managed to ask about Grave working on a machine. It can make the Skrulls even more powerful, and the person in charge of the project is Dr. Dalton. Before long, Grave arrived. The agents outside entered combat mode. Unfortunately, they were no match for the aliens. Grave took the lead. He swiftly hung a bald man on a meat hook. They quickly cleared the scene. However, when they blasted open the door, clever Sonia had already slipped away through an underground passage. Grave took the fingerless man with him. The man insisted that he hadn't leaked any information. He claimed to have deceived Sonia with lies. Grave naturally didn't believe him. He ordered his trusted subordinate to drag him into the woods for execution. Meanwhile, Nick left the tavern. He arrived at a villa in the outskirts. Inside, the Skrull was cooking. The moment Nick entered the room, the Skrull transformed into the appearance of a human woman and affectionately kissed Nick. The woman's name is Farah. She fell in love with Nick in 1998. Nick knew that she was a Skrull. He came back this time just to confirm that she wasn't siding with Grave. Farah became furious upon hearing this. Nick disappeared for several years. It was a rare opportunity for them to meet again. Nick actually asked her if she had betrayed him. Farah wanted to say more, but she was interrupted by a phone call. Nick noticed that his wife's phone wasn't an iPhone. He also felt that something was off about her. On the other side, Grave began a new plan. He sent 3 agents to infiltrate the Royal Navy. Their plan was to shoot down a United Nations plane. This would lure out the superheroes. Then they would steal their DNA to give to Dalton for research. This way, the Skrulls could replicate their superpowers. They would become Super Skrulls. Later, Grave contacted Talos through Shirley's connection. He was prepared to negotiate with Talos. He took the call in front of G.I.A. on his way. He deliberately revealed the mission's location and time. G.I.A. passed the information to his father. After Talos met with Grave, he demanded that Grave immediately cease his actions. However, Grave made a joke about G.I.A.'s life. This infuriated Talos, and he grabbed Grave by the neck. In the next moment, everyone in the restaurant stood up. They all transformed into the likeness of Grave. It turned out that the room was filled with his spies. Talos stated that he would make an effort to prevent the war. He could even reveal to humans that there are Skrulls among the high-ranking officials. Grave has G.I.A. as a bargaining chip. There was no panic whatsoever. Talos drove the knife into his palm. He warned the other not to harm G.I.A. He then left the restaurant. Grave pulled out his left hand. The severed skin immediately healed. It seems he had injected himself with the desperation virus. It can regenerate damaged tissues instantly. After Talos left, he went to the restaurant to have a meal. Shortly after, Nick came over to ask for his help. Talos said, "You really have no shame. Yesterday, you were angry with me, and today, you come running for help." Nick didn't care about that. After being fired, he needed assistance. He said, "Without you, I'm just a useless person." He quickly appeased Talos. Talos informed Nick of the information G.I.A. had revealed. Tomorrow afternoon at 10 o'clock, Skrulls inside a British submarine on Neptune are expected to attack the United Nations delegation. As soon as Nick heard British, he thought of Sandia from MI6. He called her for help. However, Sandia was investigating another case. There was also no one available to assign to Nick. She shared the information about the Neptune ship captain with him. Nick and Talos took immediate action. On the way, they encountered a resident walking their dog. Talos has lived on Earth for many years, but still can't understand. Humanity is a brutal species that is constantly fighting. Why would you willingly clean up another species' poop? Nick chuckled and said, "Haven't I been wiping your ass for the past 30 years? Talos disagreed with this viewpoint and believed that if it weren't for his help, Nick would still be neglected at SHI. They bickered all the way to the captain's house. Talos disguised himself as the captain and fooled the guards. However, they were exposed before they even entered the door. He took action and knocked out the enemy. Nick also brandished his gun and joined the action. They both infiltrated the room one after another. Nick contacted Talos to inquire about the situation on the second floor. However, the other party called him by his name directly. Talos usually calls himself Fury. Nick realized that something was amiss. He immediately took the captain's son hostage and went upstairs. The other person released Talos. Meanwhile, the computer on the table displayed that a United Nations aircraft was about to enter Neptune's range. Nick had to obtain the abort code as soon as possible. Talos didn't want to harm his fellow countrymen, so he persuaded the captain to confess. The captain also mentioned Gia. Talos directly shot and killed the captain. However, as the plane was about to enter range, Talos asked his daughter for help. After Gia hung up the phone, she knocked out a guard and infiltrated the secret base. All the original bodies replaced by aliens were located here. She found the real captain. She quickly searched through his memories. She successfully found the abort code. She helped her father prevent this tragedy, but Gia was exposed as a result. She quickly rode a motorcycle to escape, but she didn't get far. She was intercepted by Grave. The so-called Neptune plan of the other party was actually just to expose them all. Grave held a gun and made her turn around. Gia stubbornly stared back at him. She wanted Grave to look into her eyes when he pulled the trigger. After a gunshot, Gia fell to the ground. Grave glanced at the body and walked away. Meanwhile, Farah received a text message. She immediately went to a certain safe and took out a handgun from inside. The person on the phone asked her to meet in an hour, and the voice was unmistakably Colonel Rhodes. An hour later, Farah went to the designated place to wait. The person who arrived was indeed Colonel Rhodes. He was also replaced by a Skrull. Rhodes was concerned about Nick being a threat. He wanted Farah to kill him to eliminate the threat. However, their conversation was completely monitored by Nick. He heard Farah pleading for him. She couldn't consider him a threat, but Rhodes insisted on killing Nick. Later, Farah returned home. She found Nick at home, but he deliberately took off his wedding ring. Farah looked into his eyes, knowing that their identities had been exposed. They took out their handguns and placed them on the table. Farah also revealed the secrets that had been buried for many years. In fact, her original body died from congenital heart disease. Before dying, the other person made a promise: let Farah take their place, but she presented 3 conditions. The first one, she wanted to be buried at sea after her death. The second one, to always be her parents' daughter. And the final one, never harm Nick. As soon as she finished speaking, both of them simultaneously took their guns and fired. Their shots missed. Even though their identities were fake, their love was genuine. They wouldn't harm each other. On the other side, Gi's wounds healed. She instantly came back to life. It turns out that before the operation, Sophie sneaked into the laboratory and injected himself with the extremist virus. As a result, she gained superhuman regenerative abilities. The next day, she met with her father. Gi wants to know how the Skrulls will be resettled after taking down Grave. Talos believes that after succeeding, he can negotiate with the president together with Nick to fight for the rights of everyone to stay on Earth. Gi is extremely disappointed. She doesn't want to continue pretending to be a human, relying on the mercy of others to get by. The father and daughter end up having an unhappy parting. A female Skrull walks out of the bathroom, immediately transforming back into the appearance of Colonel Rhodes. Which woman could accept this shell? She just walked out of the door and saw Nick. The other person brought a bottle of fine wine. Wanting to please Rhodes and regain his former position, it subtly hinted that he knows there is a mole around the president. Rhodes drinks the contents of the glass. It plays a video for the other person. In the footage, Grave transforms into Nick and shoots him dead with a single shot. If this video were to be leaked, it would undoubtedly cause a huge uproar. Rhodes threatens Nick to be more honest, to hide in a corner and retire peacefully. Nick puts on his coat and leaves. His purpose for this trip has been accomplished. In that bottle of $5,000 a specially developed liquid tracker has been mixed. Now Rhodes' whereabouts are completely transparent. At this moment, he is heading to the airport to pick up the U.S. president. Today, the United States and Russia will hold bilateral talks. A fully armed convoy escorts the president forward. Rhodes sends the coordinates to Grave. The other party immediately launches a missile attack. The president's car flips over, triggering a series of collision accidents. He is trapped in the car. His condition unknown. Nick and Talos follow the location and chase after. At this time, the president's security team launches a full-scale attack, engaging in a fierce battle with Graves' henchmen. Uninformed American bodyguards believe that this is a Russian attack. Graves easily achieves his objective. Rhodes sits in the car and watches the battle unfold. Outside the car window, there is intense bombing and explosions. The two sides fight fiercely without a clear advantage. Nick and Talos also join the battle. Subsequent reinforcements arrive. Graves uses Groot skills. It is clear that he has more than just regenerative abilities. He is further expanding his powers. Nick and the others take advantage of cover and reach the president's car. Talos smashes the glass forcefully. Wanting to rescue the president, Graves orders his subordinates to kill Talos. However, due to the long range, he only hit Talos in the shoulder. Half of the face of the other person reveals their true form. But Talos, determined, continues smashing the glass. He must prove to everyone that there is a faction of Skrulls that seeks peace. Talos successfully rescues the president. Nick helps the other person into the car. Then he orders his subordinates to take care of Talos. However, that soldier stands still. Nick realizes that the person is a Skrull. He immediately shoots him. Graves then reveals his true form, but he carries the desperation virus. Bullets are ineffective in killing him. He stabs Talos to death with a backhand strike and ignores Nick's shots. He jumps onto his comrade's motorcycle and leaves. Nick looks at his friend's body and decides to first get the president to safety. He can't let anything happen to him. Otherwise, the whole world will be in chaos. The president is urgently taken to the hospital for treatment. Graves and the others return to their base. His subordinates are very angry. They had a chance to kill Nick in the chaos, but Graves didn't act. He explains, Nick has Avengers DNA on his hands. They need to obtain that first. The subordinates wanted to question further, but Graves rips out their hearts. He retracts the tendrils. He sends a few subordinates to kill Fala, punishing them for not obeying orders. After all the bystanders leave, Graves calls Rhodes. He tells him not to kill the president for now. It's best to make the other party believe that this attack was a collaboration between Russians and Skrulls, then show the president the satellite images of the safe house. Rhodes doesn't understand when he hears this. Isn't this putting our compatriots in danger? But he doesn't disobey Graves' orders. Instead, he goes to the hospital as instructed. Little did he know, as soon as he arrived, Nick pins him against the wall. The protagonist wants the Skrull to reveal their true form. They have to kill him to achieve that, but Rhodes' bodyguards are nearby. It's likely that if Nick shoots, he'll be buried along with them. He can only let the other person go for now. Rhodes follows Graves' instructions. He incites the president. He tries to convince the other party to destroy the Skrull base in Russian territory, and points out that the mission has received support from the British. However, if the United States attacks Russian territory, it would be equivalent to starting World War III. On the other side, Graves' brutal style causes dissatisfaction among the people. Several Skrulls attack Graves in a restaurant. They want to overthrow his tyrannical rule, but he has assimilated various superhuman DNA. These lackeys are no match for him. Graves quickly kills the rebels. He throws the leader through a glass door and kills him in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Sonya is also cleaning up. She exposes the Skrull disguised as the director of intelligence agency and shoots him in front of everyone, forcing him to reveal his true form. Sonya pressures him to reveal Dr. Dalton's location. Then she breaks into the couple's laboratory. She searches for all the data files and sets the laboratory on fire. Dalton's husband breaks free from the handcuffs and he holds his wife hostage, threatening Sonya to let him go. Unexpectedly, Sonya remains calm and mocks that men only have two tricks, either emotional blackmail or violent threats. She then shoots and kills Dalton's husband. Meanwhile, Nick finds Jaya. He informs Jaya about Talos' death. At the same time, he doesn't forget to inquire about how many races DNA Graves currently possesses. Jaya says that currently, he only has the DNA of the Black Huntress. Genes such as the Floral Giant clan are irrelevant. Graves' ultimate goal is the abilities of the Avengers to find a gene collection called Harvest. Nick didn't say much. He handed a set of keys to Jaya, asking him to find Fala and properly bury their father's body. Jaya arrives at Fala's mansion, and with Fala's help they cremate Talos. Their father fought for the clan his whole life, yet the funeral could only be concluded with simplicity. All Jaya can do is fulfill his unfinished mission to help the Skrulls find a place to settle. Jaya knows that Graves will come to deal with Fala. He asks why she is still guarding this place. Fala is unwilling to leave the mansion. because it holds memories of her and Nick. Just as she finishes speaking, Grave's people arrive. Vala tosses a weapons bag to Jaya. The two fight back to back, protecting each other's vulnerabilities, and cover each other while reloading and shooting. They take down all the enemies. Their level of understanding is astonishing. Meanwhile, Nick relies on a disguise. He successfully enters Finland under a new identity. Meanwhile, Sonia is waiting in the car to pick him up. It's during their conversation that Nick finds out Rhodes took away the satellite images of the Skrull base. He quickly informs Sonia Rhodes is also an alien, and Grave has gone mad now. He is willing to sacrifice some of his own kind to provoke the Third World War, unless Nick willingly hands over the harvest to him. Sonia asks what the harvest is. He answers that almost every superhero has shed blood in the Battle of Earth. At that time, Nick sent a group of Skrulls to search all over. They collected their DNA to create the harvest, and Grave was one of the collectors. Presumably from that time on, he had the idea to create a Super Skrull. Nick came to Finland this time to take the harvest and negotiate with him. Sonia is somewhat confused why Nick doesn't seek help from the superheroes, but he says, you can't always rely on divine intervention to save people from danger. He has to resolve his issues with the Skrulls on his own. Nick breathes on the tombstone engraved with his own name. Then he takes out the harvest hidden inside. He walks into the adjacent stone chamber. He puts on his iconic cape and eye patch, transforming back into the formidable Nick Fury. He quickly arrives at Grave's base. He takes down two guards. Nick discovers that the room is filled with Skrull corpses. He doesn't know about the recent infighting. The place is heavily contaminated by nuclear radiation. Nick coughs as he searches for Grave's location. After years of separation, the two finally meet face to face. Meanwhile, Rhodes is still urging the president to attack the base, hoping to ignite tensions between us and Russia. He has even prepared a speech for starting the war, only needing the president's approval. Unexpectedly, Sonia calls Rhodes, saying that Nick needs to see the president, prompting Rhodes to move immediately. Sonia is helping Nick buy time. Rhodes is unaware that he has been deceived. As expected, they send people to relocate the president. They had just left the ward when several bodyguards were shot and dragged away. While Rhodes is busy and overwhelmed, Sonia suddenly appears, pointing a gun at him. The scene shifts back to the Skrull base. When Grave was young, he saw Nick as the savior, naively believing that he would help their people settle, even willing to become a pawn under Nick's command, killing humans everywhere to complete missions. The face Grave is now using is the face of the first human he killed under Nick's orders. He resents Nick for not keeping his word, forcing the Skrulls to hide in the shadows. Grave captures Nick, making him remember that it's all his fault that things have come to this point, blaming him for using people and then discarding them. Nick doesn't argue, as he indeed hasn't found a suitable planet for the Skrulls. With 8 billion people on Earth, it's impossible to make them accept an alien race. When the snap occurred, Nick even felt a sense of relief. He no longer had to resist, and even managed to escape to a space station to hide. However, Grave's appearance made Nick realize that the situation was not yet resolved. He takes out the harvest and intends to hand it directly to Grave. It doesn't matter which planet he destroys and settles down, but the condition is that they must leave Earth. Grave looks incredulous. He takes a spin before taking the harvest away. He connects the liquid to the constructed device and realizes that it contains the DNA of a superhero. Grave approaches Nick, and a massive gene converter starts glowing. Grave undergoes a transformation and now looks like a hybrid of the Hulk and a Skrull. Grave punches Nick, hitting him against the wall. Suddenly, Nick grabs his fist and effortlessly throws Grave through the roof, causing a massive pipe to deform. Wait, has Nick also been modified by the DNA of a superhero? But isn't this machine specifically designed for Skrulls? Nick emerges from the smoke, reverting to the appearance of Jaya. So, this Nick was actually impersonated by her. Grave killed Jaya's parents, and this duel was destined to erupt between them. Grave and Jaya have fully charged their skills. Jaya adjusts her abilities, transforming into an ice person and impaling Grave. With a flick of his finger, Grave throws her away. Jaya gets up and both of them sprint towards each other at high speed. They simultaneously activate the powers of Captain Marvel and the Hulk. Launching into the air, Grave grabs Jaya by the neck, but she activates the skills of the Black Widow, hypnotizing Grave and making him release his grip. In an instant, Grave is thrown back to the ground. Jaya merges the powers of Captain Marvel and the Hulk, charging towards Grave with force. With one hand, she lifts Grave into the air and delivers a fatal blow. The real Nick has already arrived at the hospital. He informs the president that Rhodes has been replaced and urges him to immediately halt the plan to attack Russia. He holds up his gun, unsure of who to trust. Nick is on the verge of revealing the truth. However, the president refuses to give the order. Taking advantage of the situation, Rhodes crashes into Sonia and seizes her gun. Nick acts swiftly and shoots Rhodes dead. Rhodes is also revealed for who he truly is. Only then does the president halt the plan to attack Russia. G.I. returns to the basement to rescue the real Rhodes and others. Upon learning the truth, the president becomes furious and wants to exterminate all Skrulls. Meanwhile, Sonia, who is skilled at reading the situation, finds G.I. and extends an olive branch. She proposes that both sides can mutually benefit and make Earth their common home. Sonia brings G.I. back to the base, where numerous sleeping individuals lie. At this time, the President of the United States is killing the Skrulls everywhere. Nick assists in cleaning up the aftermath. He receives a message from the Godslayer space station. The Kree are willing to engage in peaceful dialogue with the Skrulls and provide them a place to live. Fala finds it amusing, as the Kree are their mortal enemies. Nick is not skilled in diplomacy and asks Fala to help. The two of them prepare to go to the space station together for negotiations, in order to cooperate and work together for the future. This season concludes here. If you enjoy my channel, please give me a subscription.